You are listening to the Racer to Racer podcast presented by Race 92. Race 92 is a vintage inspired racing apparel brand specializing in celebrating vintage race culture and adapting to motorsports today. Check out race92.com for all your racing merchandise needs. I'm your co host, Aaron Mack. The other co host you may have seen walking out of a great clips with a big old smile on his face. You've probably seen him at a dirt track. He is a one and only Scott Bowie. Scott Bowie, how is it going?
Good, buddy. Welcome to the new year.
New year. I trust you had a good holiday and a good new year.
I did. Everything was good. It was quiet as far as for me, it was quiet. A lot of my neighbors, they must have had a lot of ammunition that was going bad. They had to get rid of it for the end of the year.
Hey.
But for me, it was very quiet though.
Well, it sounds like it wasn't quiet if you heard it.
Right.
Yeah, no, it was great year. Definitely really exciting things to look forward to this year. Like I said, I think 2022 is going to be the year of the Bowie, so we'll see.
Yeah. Well, maybe. I'm waiting for it. It's about time.
Yep, I know you hit kind of a rough patch last year, so hopefully 2022 is a little better to you.
Yeah. I mean, it's nothing that most people don't go through, or
Sure.
you know, so. But no, I think 2022 will be a good year, and like we said in our year-end show, and we've said many times, man, just looking forward to not only releasing the videos we got, but releasing new videos, and hopefully some of the things we're talking about come through. And man, I'm just really excited for what the possibilities lay before us.
Absolutely. Before we get anything else, just wanted to thank everyone for listening and watching on YouTube. Listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Hit like if you're watching on YouTube. Because like we were saying, we have some really great ones, including the one today. This guy doesn't really need an introduction. John Schneider. This is somebody that we've talked about before has affected, millions and millions of people. Dukes of Hazzard was a huge show. Obviously, I wasn't around when the show was in its popularity, but obviously you were, and you're saying how big the show was.
Oh, it was massive, and like he talks about, for the people who don't realize, I'm sure most of our audience is older that do realize, but there used to only be three channels that you could watch
Appointment
on
television, you
network
call it.
TV. Yep, and Dukes of Hazzard was a appointment television. That was the meaning a show that you had the time circled on the calendar, and that was somebody, live for Dukes of Hazzard. Entire family would sit around and watch the show, and it reached such big audiences, like you were saying, and millions and millions and millions of people, and John Schneider and Tom Wopat, and
Yeah.
just man, I couldn't imagine being that big of a star to where everybody knows who you are. So many people have got your posters up on the wall of their house and their
Right.
bedrooms, and
And we talk about that a little
uh,
bit.
yeah, we talked about it a little bit. And I couldn't imagine. That has to be some level of pressure. I would think.
Oh, I can't even imagine. And a lot of people may be thinking, like, how does he fit with the Racer to Racer podcast? Well, first off, he does race now. He races modifieds, and he's always been interested in racing. And it's safe to say racing had a big part to do with the Dukes of Hazzard. Obviously all the car jumps, the chases with the police cars and stuff. Racing was heavily, involved, and they had several. And we talk about, some of their episodes. There's several episodes with racing involved. There was one where Bo was a NASCAR driver. There's another one with Cale Yarborough, and I think there was a couple other NASCAR guys on a couple other times. But obviously, the whole show was based around basically a car. So obviously, racing was a big part of the show.
Well, it's so much different today, as we're evolving, and car culture is not what it once was, although there's pockets of it. But you could find shows, and there were movies in the 60s and 70s and TV shows where there were car chases and car jumps, and um, whether it's Rockford Files or Streets of San Francisco or The Rookies, or there's just show after show after show that would have Adam. I don't know if Adam 12 was quite that way, but they would have they'd be chasing the bad guys and be car jumps, and but car culture was so big in the country at that time, and
Yeah.
Dukes of Hazzard really came in kind of toward the end of that, because you could say Smoking the Bandit was part of that, which was about the same time when Dukes of Hazzard started. But when the late 70s, we had the gas crunch, different types of cars started coming out. We didn't have the big American cars anymore. In the 80s, that sort of starts to change, and it starts to evolve more what we have today. And it's just it's interesting to be able to go back and look at that, and just see how all of that has evolved and changed over the years.
Right. It's funny. I was talking to my buddy Jamie, who's about your age, Scott, and he was talking about when he watched Dukes of Hazzard, he watched it because of the car jumps, and he was pretty young when it came out. And I said, "Oh, come on, you watched it because of Daisy Duke." He's like, "I didn't care about women then." Hey,
Right.
car crashes, women, same thing,
What do
right?
you want? Yeah. Well, yeah. No, they
I'm
could definitely
joking.
be comparable at times. Uh, if, if you yeah, if you aren't careful, it could definitely be very comparable. But yeah, and Catherine Bach, again, Daisy Duke. Her thing was a Jeep. She had like a
Mm.
Jeep, and then those Jeeps become very popular amongst women. Um,
Yeah.
and so, and her style of dress became
Well,
very
yeah. I mean,
popular to this day.
how many times do you hear someone say, "I got Daisy Dukes on"
Right.
all the
And
time?
it really is amazing how
Much
something that
influence.
happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, something that happened over 40 years ago now still carries so much influence in the world. It's really interesting.
A lot of people talk about a show that it's just like it's a show that I mean you can have your kids watch now because it's just good, clean humor and no curse words, no crazy violence or anything.
Right. Yeah, and it's a lot of I mean the humor's pretty GPG humor, and it's just it's one of those shows. There was always some sort of moral element to the ending. We have the great moral
Yeah,
ending where everybody realizes whatever the error was of someone, and uh like I said, it's a time capsule into a different world, and it is amazing that it still has the audience it has. And with today's technologies and all the streaming services, these shows are not going away, and
no,
they're never going to go away. We will watch movies like on HBO Max, or like Turner Classic Movies or something, of things made in the 40s, 30s, 40s, stuff that you used to have to wait till they showed on TV. Every once in a while. Now you can go back and find all these films, and it's very equivalent to the TV shows, and
yeah.
it's really interesting. And it's interesting how John Schneider's has been able to stay relevant in the times.
And he's involved, as we were saying before we did the interview. He's involved in a ton of projects. I mean, he's a country musician. I mean, he's put out, man, I forget how many, a lot of albums, close to 20, I think. Which is just, and he had one song that was a pretty big hit. So I mean, he's definitely has his hands in a lot of cookie jars, and is successful. And racing is something that's kind of new to him, and he kind of talks about he's not as successful now and when he races as he wants to be, but he'll definitely get to that point. I mean, obviously he's competitive in nature to I mean to be as successful as actor he was, and everything else he's been involved with. So
Yeah, and if anybody, I mean, obviously, if anybody's interested, John has his own YouTube channel. It's underneath his name, I believe, and he has a lot of videos on several different subjects. And so, if anybody's interested in really beyond this, catching up with what he's doing today, that's a great way to follow him. And like Aaron was saying, he sounds like he's part of a streaming service where like his movies are coming out on streaming services, and he's I don't know how many movies he's currently doing, but it sounds like he's just finished a couple and he's doing a couple. And man, I don't know how these guys manage their time. These people who are able to do so many different things at once. It's really impressive.
Yeah, and actually his website is johnschneiderstudios.com. So he sells like his DVDs and then, merchandise, stuff like that. The streaming, channel stuff is on there as well.
Yeah, anybody who's interested, please go check it out. John definitely has his beliefs. He stands by his beliefs. So I mean, I would say that he's not a person who is looking for popular favor in the world. He's just someone who believes in what he believes in, and so it's one of those things where maybe not everybody agrees with him, but you have to respect the fact that he has an opinion that he stands by.
Right.
So and that was an interesting part of talking to him as well, just kind of finding that out.
And obviously, we're
listening to him talk.
focusing, right. We're focusing obviously on the racing stuff, some stuff about
Right.
Dukes of Hazzard. We're definitely not a political podcast or anything like that by any means.
Right. Yeah. So he was, but again, he goes to a lot of small dirt tracks around the country, and he races. I think he performs concert. It kind of sounds like he does a concert.
He does the national anthem.
I think some places,
and he does some other songs too, right?
I think he goes into the night before a lot of times, and he'll play show, and then a lot of times they'll stay for that Sunday, and then they'll do church at the track. So he's definitely out there, just kind of living his lifestyle the way he wants, and it was, like I said, it was an interesting talk. He's an interesting guy. He's very kind. And it's amazing, like I said, just how many projects he's had, and the amount of work he's currently doing that he's done. Man, we all get 24 hours in a day, but some people seem to be able to squeak out 26. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Some people are able to just make those schedules work better than others, and it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and this is one of those interviews that was kind of surreal. Like you said, it's someone that I know you spend hours watching, and I spent hours watching the television show and TV as well. And, when you watch someone that long and be able to, sit down and talk to him for, an hour that we did, I mean, it was pretty cool. And, he said we can have him back on at some point. So definitely, look forward to having him back on when, he has some more racing under his belt, and we can, talk a little bit more about racing next time around, since we've, already talked about Dukes of Hazzard a lot.
Yeah, hopefully we can get him on maybe toward the middle of the year, and to just see how he's coming along, because it's just sounded like talking to him, and it sounds like he's doing the things to try to get better and improve, and it'll just be interesting to see how far he's advanced come the middle of the year. So yeah, no, that'll be interesting. Hopefully we can get together for 15-20 minutes, just kind of catch up with that and see what he's doing, and see how everything's going.
Yeah, no, but yeah, special thanks to him, because he was very generous with his time, and his wife also helped set this up, and his assistant Katie. So thank you to both of them for sure. I'm definitely, really appreciate it. And it was absolutely great talking to him. And, like we said, like when we started this, like I know like we kind of started with a lot of like, Indy 500 guys and IndyCar guys, but the whole idea was to give variety of people.
That's right.
And I really think the interviews we have lined up for the next, really, I think we have about 2 months worth at this point already recorded. There's a lot of variety there, and I think people will definitely enjoy it. We have at least one IndyCar driver in there. We have an NHRA driver. We have an announcer. I mean, we have a pretty big variety. Couple announcers actually. So
yeah, and every one of them I enjoyed tremendously. Some of the people I've known for a while, some I've never met before, and there's not one in there that I'm not proud of. All of them, I'm just so proud that we were able to speak with them and talk to them.
And the one next week is one that I remember you were super excited after. I thought you were going to punch your camera. You were so excited after we recorded that one. You were like, yeah.
Yeah, great guy.
Oh, great guy.
And yeah, and yeah, that he's a great guy, and he is a man of his word.
Yep. And like you said, he's a guy you would run through a brick wall for.
I absolutely would. I'd absolutely run through a brick wall for that guy.
I'll follow you through. You can go through it first, but I'll go through.
Well, it'll be a wide hole, so you'll be good.
Oh God. Yep. Well, on that note, I think we've talked enough. I think people listening to this point, they want to hear John Schneider. So without any further ado, we'll get straight into John Schneider. Hope everyone enjoys.
Thank you for the subscribers. We're up over 100. Again, thank you.
And that's just on YouTube.
Week. And that's just on YouTube.
Yep. Yeah. So definitely check us out on other platforms if you haven't. And yeah, tell people listen to us. And if you have any comments, we love seeing comments on the videos. And yeah, thanks everyone for watching, listening, and definitely stay tuned for the next couple months.
That's right. And we have a special show in 2 weeks coming up.
Yep. Philly Bull live stream. We're working on that actively. So hopefully, yeah, looking forward to that as well.
Have a great week, everybody.
Our guest today is an actor, country musician, and a racing driver. He is most famously known as playing Bo Duke in the Dukes of Hazzard. We are joined by John Schneider. John, it's an absolute honor. I can't believe we're actually talking to you. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
It's an honor to be here. Now that I'm actually going around in kind of a circle or a diamond or an oval or a kidney bean, depending on who you talk to, avoiding the walls in and out. I am finally kind of in the club that everyone has assumed I've been in for 40 years, but now I really am, and I'm just loving every minute of it.
Yeah, and I just met you, I think it was 2 weeks ago at PRI, and actually, I have your book right here, so we'll plug your book if anyone wants to buy
My
your
Life,
book.
My Way. Yay. Thank you. Thank you.
No.
I appreciate that. It's a good book, folks. You should read it. If you've got nothing else to do, if you're just sitting around wondering what in the world is going on, then take a couple hours and read my book. It's actually a self-help book, and not just for me. Have you cracked a page on it yet? Probably haven't had a chance.
I've looked through it a little bit. I haven't completely dug in and started reading yet, but I went through it a little bit.
Yeah. Well, its intent is to help people follow their dreams, to chase their dreams, and grab hold of them with both hands, regardless of what they are. So I'm very proud of that book, and I intend to. When I was encouraged to write a book, I said, "But write a book about your life." And I said, "But thankfully, I don't know how it ends yet." And they said, "Write one about up till now." And there's been a whole lot of life between the last page of that book and what's been going on ever since. So I'm very excited. Dirt Track is not even in that book. I hadn't started.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So obviously, what did you get interested in, acting first or racing, or how did you first get interested in motorsports?
Well, I think, see, I'm 61, so I think a lot of people my age, their first jump into, wow, that looks cool, was a movie called, in my day, we called it Grand Prix. I think the purists called it Grand Prix.
It's a great movie.
But wonderful, wonderful movie. And later on in life, I worked with a camera operator who had a fantastic name. What was it? King Baggett. What a name. And I'm told he was the guy that actually drove the car. He developed the camera helmet. And that was probably back in 67, 66, 67. And he developed that camera. He also then was the guy that was on skis for Downhill Racer.
Oh.
So Grand Prix was Paul Newman, I believe. It's been a long time since I've seen that.
No, I don't think that one was. Who was that one, Scott?
Wasn't it Paul Newman?
No, that was Winning.
Nope.
Have you seen Winning?
Paul Newman's in Winning. And then Grand
Winning.
Prix is with
George Papard.
It's not Is
someone-
it James Garner?
James Gardner, I think, right?
Is that right? Wow.
I think so.
Sometime after Doris Day and before Jim Rockford, right? So anyway, I love that. I love the speed of it. I love the sound of it. And then a little bit later, there was a movie called Bullet. Of course, everybody who's a car enthusiast loved Bullet. That was a '68 Charger, right? It was not quite the most famous Charger in the world until Dukes of Hazzard came around. But I love that movie. And so it was movies. I was a kid who, I'm from New York, from Mount Kisco, New York, which is a very rural part of New York State. Of course, now it's kind of a fancy schmancy place, and people say, "Oh, he's from Westchester." Well, yeah, I'm from Westchester, but we used to ride our bikes, and basically we didn't call it racing figure eight, but we kind of did a crazy thing we called almost crack up, which was riding our bikes with our Joe DiMaggio baseball cards closed pinned to the spokes. If I only had those damn things. But riding around in the driveway and out in the grass and trying to come as close to hitting each other without doing it, which is kind of what figure eight is. So did that, and my dad did automobile upholstery. He had a wonderful business called Bell Service. And my first recollection of going around in a circle out of control, or in a controlled skid, as my dad would have called it, but we were on ice, so really I know it was out of control, in a probably a 58, 59 Volkswagen Bug in Caldor parking lot, was with my dad at the wheel. And when we hit the wall, they would, I guess they still do, I don't live up north anymore, but they would shove all the snow up against the light posts, and he would, when he would wreck, which was not very often, he was really naturally very good. We'd hit that block of ice. So, yeah, I know you were waiting for that puffy pile of snow. No, in New York State in January, it's basically a block of ice that is harder than the telephone pole that's around. So I just fell in love with it. Love everything about it. First recollection of seeing a race was actually Demolition Derby, and I believe that was at the Danbury Fair in Danbury, Connecticut. And then moving up in the world, I went to Watkins Glen and watched a race or two at Watkins Glen. So I've loved it a long time. And by the time I started Dukes, I was pretty proficient at very short bursts of speed and stopping, which is all we really needed on Dukes. Come hauling ass around a corner, sliding sideways, turn right to go left, and then slide up next to the camera and stop. I've determined now that's easy, because that's about an 18-second race. That's a one-lap race on a long track. And it's a whole new world out there when it's you're going around and around and around. But I've loved it for as long as I can remember.
So you did a lot of the stunt driving, right? Minus jumps in Dukes of Hazzard.
Well, I did a lot of driving, but it really wouldn't be fair to say I did a lot of stunt driving, although I did a lot of controlled, again here now I'm going to call it a controlled skids on the dirt roads, and sliding around through the trees and running after or from the bad guys. The most stuff that I did was when the scene called for the Duke boys to come from way out there and come up and slide up to the front of the Boar's Nest or the police station or the Duke farm mid-conversation and get out talking, so that you could tell beyond a shadow of a doubt that was John Schneider, that was Bo driving that car. Same thing when it was time to leave. It's time to leave. Duke boys run out of a building, slide over the hood, jump in the car, and take off. And sometimes the only thing that was in the way was the barn, and sometimes the bad guys were coming in, so there's a little bit of chicken on the way out. So I did all of that when it's absolutely obvious that it's me driving. I did some of the stuff out on the dirt roads when we were loaned. In Dukes of Hazzard, we had two complete units. We had first unit and second unit. First unit was basically dialogue and scenes. Second unit was stunts and grabbing any of the actors who were available from first unit to go out and shoot additional things out on the dirt roads. So when we were there, I did everything I possibly could. And I was allowed to do everything except jump a car.
I guess it was a liability thing.
A liability thing, and if I got hurt, then we'd all be out of work for a little while, or maybe, or forever, at least for that show.
Right.
So I don't do that until flash forward until my wife and I make our own movies. And in Christmas Cars 2 years ago, I finally jumped the General League. About 75 feet, not a long jump, but I finally jumped the car. And then in the last movie we did, Poker Run, I jumped the car over the lake, probably about 100 feet. So I'm building up as I'm getting older. My jumps are getting further and further. So next year, the hope, or not the hope, the design in the next installment of our Southern horsepower comedy films, called Double or Nothing. I'm gonna go for 175 feet. I'm going for like a 72 mile an hour at the end of the ramp jump. So I guess, they say older and wiser, maybe not. Maybe not.
Devil may care,
fun,
right?
Though.
Devil may care at this
sure
point.
It's fun. Well, it broke my heart to have little kids come up and say, "Bo, what's it like jumping the General League?" And I'd have to say, "Son, I have no idea," because I'm not going to lie. So now I can tell them. It's hitting the wall at hitting a wall at Longdale is much more memorable than jumping a car 100 feet or so. So far, let me underscore that. So far, but I'm going for it.
You obviously you're racing. It appears like, just from what I was watching, you're running modifieds now. Is that accurate?
Yeah, we're running the Outlaw Southern shoot. I can't remember what it's called, but it's a pretty basic rear end. It's a 602 crate.
Yeah.
And it's a fairly, forgive me, I've only been doing this a year and a half. And I did a YouTube video day before yesterday about encouraging people to vote because your vote matters.
I watched that.
I made a comment. Yeah. It does. It really does. So my car currently is fairly, what you see is what you get. It's kind of non-adjustable. I can move my braking. I can turn my little handle clockwise or counterclockwise, but that's really about it. Other than that's really about it. So I was at a race at Springfield, I guess a month ago or so, running last. And I hate that. I don't want to be the guy out there that's in the way. I don't want to be lap traffic. I don't want to be that guy. I either want to be in the top three or have the most amazing wreck that I walk away from. If the crowd is up on their feet, right? Yay, Bo! Yay, Duke Marietta, new movies. But after I ran, a young man said, "Hey, why don't you run my car?" And his car is a B mod. So I drove his, and apparently a couple of weeks earlier it had been flipped. So it was a little loose. But I'd never driven one before. I'd never pressed on the gas and the clutch at the same time to go forward. That's totally foreign to me. I don't get that. But I went out and I pushed myself far enough that I spun out, just me on the track. Jerry left the lights on. Boy, there's a dirt track song right there. Jerry left the lights on. So I took about 10 laps in that car and then came back, and I could feel a difference. And I was faster. I spun out, but I was faster. Then the guy right next to me, and forgive me, I do not remember your name. I'm sure you're listening. But he said, "Drive my car." And he had won that night. Drive my car. And Jerry said, yeah, drive his car. I built it. It's great. It's a great car. So I said, are you sure? I mean, you saw me. I've been spinning out. He said, just drive my car. And Springfield is a track that has no wall on 3 and 4, which is weird for me. Probably not for you guys, but it's weird for me. So I got in his car and I went out, and apparently I dropped like 3.5 seconds off my lap time. Same driver in somebody else's car that was infinitely more adjustable and actually helped. His was an A mod. So his, I think, was like a 700 horsepower. Mine's 350, I think. So I'm in much more horsepower. Is that what a 602 is? It's not. There's not a whole lot of horsepower.
I'm not sure.
There.
I'd put it closer to 450 probably.
450.
My
okay.
guess.
Well, I had substantially more horsepower, and I did a whole lot better. So we're in the process now. We're going out to. I keep saying Yuma, Arizona. It's very near Yuma, Arizona, but we're going to go out there, and I'm going to borrow a vehicle, and so I'm going to borrow an A mod, and I'm going to go out there and race and see if it makes a lot of difference. We did just spend 3 days at Boyd Speedway in Ringgold with Goat. His name is Goat Riley. They call him Goat. I'm not sure why, but he taught Alicia and I some things which were great. We actually got some lap time. Because one of my issues is, and I spoke to Kenny Wallace about this. I mean, because it's me, we've had the great fortune and the misfortune to be out there with some of the best drivers in the world. So we're on tracks with people we have absolutely no business being on tracks with, right? So I can remember one night at, I think it was Springfield, where I can actually say that coming around turn, transitioning from 3 to 4, Kenny Wallace pushed me into Ken Schrader so they could catch up to Mark Martin. And not a lot of people have that story. And it was great. And then Kenny said to me, he said, he said, you don't suck, but with work you could. I thought, thanks, Kenny. Thanks, Kenny Wallace. No, he didn't say that. But I said, what do I need to do? And he said, you set your car fine. He said, you just need, it wasn't a better car, but he basically said, that car, no matter who's driving that car, it shouldn't be out here with my car. And that sounds like a terrible thing. He didn't mean that in a bad way at all. He meant that in a very complimentary way, because I finished that race. I think I finished 8th. 8th out of 15, and I'm out there, and my car is great because we have our crew chief, Topper Degas is the one who's built the car, and he holds a bunch of records here in Louisiana. I watched him take that same car out on that track that night and just tear it up. He's been doing it for 30 years. So, I'm seeing that, sadly, racing is a lot like golf. There's 1,000 things you've got to do right. And if you think about any of them while you're doing them, you'll do the next one wrong. And if you feel bad about doing that one wrong, you'll do the next 5 wrong. But I'm going to get there. I'm going to get there very soon. I think when we're out in Yuma, and again, it's a track right near Yuma. We're there for a whole week. I'm going to, my plan is by day 3, I'm going to go right through suck and then get good. And that's my promise to the 7-year-old that comes out to watch Bo race with the rebel flag on the roof of his car or her car. Because that's, I want to do really well here. And it's so much fun. I have never felt more relaxed And I'm a pretty relaxed guy.
Right.
Most people think, you get up there and it's like, oh, I'm going to do this. No, I'm waiting and I see all these cars dust is blowing up. The race before us is whizzing by. And I just kind of go,
yeah.
And it's great. It's great. So it is absolutely for me. Sometimes you can do something, go, that's not for me. This is for me. I'm enjoying it.
The car is still painted up like the General Lee then?
Oh, you bet. You bet it is.
That's awesome.
Wouldn't have it any other way.
Do you think that, like, I don't know, people, I mean, they see the car and obviously it draws attention, like, oh, John Schneider's racing in this race. Do you think that, like, kind of, I don't know, breaks your focus for the actual race because people are more focused on, the celebrity than the race car driver?
Yes. And again, I talked to Kenny Wallace about that because it's many times when we go out to race, the first time I actually see the track at all is during hot laps. Because people want to ask questions, and it's great. I love that. But this is the first time in my life where 45 minutes before I'm going to go out and do something where I could kill myself, I'm being talked to. I've been in that spot, and had people bang on the roof of the car, thumbs up, give me knuckles, give me that, and I'm honored. It's a very, and usually at the tracks I also do the national anthem.
Oh.
So it's like hot laps, go back to the pits, wait 5 minutes, get on a golf cart, go to the midfield, and then grab a microphone, talk about the national anthem, which I do. I explain to people what it is, what it means, why it's important, and what we get from it. And then sing the national anthem, then get back in a buggy, go back to the car, hop in, try to put my harness on quick enough, and remember how to clip the Hans device on. And usually then I'm out on the track. So it's like, but I know why people, we are so far. It seems it'll be better when I get right through suck. It seems that me being there is good for whatever track we've been to. So far, every track we've been to has done much better on that particular night or weekend by virtue of having us there. Pardon me, I you hear that bell. So I know that dirt track is great for my soul, and I have reason to believe that we're pretty great for dirt track. So many events we do a 3-day event where we show a movie, we do a concert, we do the race, we do cowboy church the next day. I mean, we come to try to remind communities that they exist. There's something about cars that brings people together, and they really do sit around and do their best to solve problems, and I think they will. I'm going to turn a little light on here, so I don't keep looking like just this shadowy figure. Oh, voila! Well, now I look like. If you just underscore this with some music, I could cry like Alec Baldwin. Sorry.
I
had to go. I'm sorry. I had to.
It's a funny thing. I've been around auto racing my entire life. 52 years old, born into it. And one thing that I feel is about the pit area, of course, it's a little bit different today. A lot more fans can come into pits than it used to be 20 years ago, 25 years ago, whatever. But it seems to be a nice place of refuge for people who maybe like yourself, who's had success in a career somewhere else. And in much like Paul Newman loved racing because when he was at a racetrack, he was a racer. He wasn't Paul Newman, the actor. He wasn't, Paul Newman, the philanthropist. He was Paul Newman, the racer, and I never knew Paul Newman, but for the people I knew that knew him and the stories I've heard, that was what he really loved about it, is like he could come there and be himself. And are you finding that that's getting easier for you? Maybe the initial, like you said, people come up to you and want to talk to you, but now the people are seeing you around a lot more and know it's not something you're just doing as a lark. It's actually something that you're kind of serious about. Is that getting easier for you?
Yeah, it is actually. And so I have every reason to believe that in 2022, it'll be easier yet. It's funny. I only met Paul Newman one time, and I met him at Meadowlands.
There you go. Yeah.
Yep. And it was true. He did drink his weight in beer every day. It was astonishing. a small, but not quite Mark Martin size, but not far off, and always a beer. But yeah, I find that I do believe that when I keep saying this, when I go through suck and get competitive, that then people will want to talk about racing. You know, right now,
what you're going to find
not much
what you're
to
going
talk
to find
about
out
with regard to my racing.
What you're going to find out is everybody wants to help you now. And then when you win that first heat race against some of the guys that are helping you, then all of a sudden the help doesn't come anymore.
Right. I'll hear this, right?
Yeah, that's right. Crickets. That's exactly what it is.
Well,
that's how it always goes. But that's really a sign of respect. You know?
I can see that. The other thing I can see, which is so great, is we had an issue where I can't remember if it was my car or my wife's car, but we needed a welding machine. It hit something and tore the front of it off. And a guy all of a sudden, and now I realize that, you know, bringing a welding machine to the Dukes of Hazzard guy is kind of a cool story to have, but they did. And then I learned that if you need something, you know, they say, oh, you don't have any friends on the racetrack. Well, you have a lot of friends in the pits. And if you need, from what I can tell, if you need something, whatever it is you need, if you don't have it and you ask around, somebody will have it and they'll loan it to you, they'll sell it to you, they'll give it to you, which is really great. You know, because people, from what I'm gleaning from this whole thing is that what people really, they don't want to, of course, everybody wants to win, but they don't want to just win. They want to win a great race.
Right.
And if I know I'm better than you, I mean, I have my areas of expertise, not in racing, but in life. I know I'm really good at some things. And when I'm really good at something, I want to play with somebody who's just as good or who at least thinks they are and kick their butt. You know, It's about, there's competition in there. So I enjoy that part of it as well. And again, that goes back to community. The racing community is certainly as competitive as any community that ever was. But by the same token, they're also sharing, and they are the camaraderie there is tremendous. And again, I think it goes back to cars, because when you're in a car show, you're competing against each other. The cars are just sitting there, but you're competing against everybody. And if you came in and said, oh my God, I need a blah, blah, blah for my 56 Nomad, somebody else with a 56 Nomad, if they had an extra, they'd bring you one, whatever it is.
Yep.
They just would. So, and that goes back to my dad. My dad, automobile upholstery. My mother had a lead foot. She's the first person I ever saw take the air cleaner off the top, turn it upside down so the car would sound better and get a little bit more spit. My mom, yeah, lead foot Shirley.
That's funny.
So a couple things go.
I was just going to say, there is not a racer there. I don't know any racer who's worth racing against that would not help someone if they could, because you, at the end of the day, I want to beat you at your best. I don't want to beat you at your worst.
Right. I don't want to beat you because you got something wrong with your car.
Right.
I want to beat you even though you've got something right with your car.
That's right. I'm sorry, Aaron. Go ahead, bud.
Oh, no, you're good. Just going back just for a second. So 2 of my favorite Dukes of Hazzard episodes were with racing. And obviously racing had a lot
Cale
to do.
Yarborough. Cale Yarborough.
And there's one more. It was in
Terry
season
Labonte.
I don't know if I've seen that one. I was talking about season 6 where you were actually a driver in NASCAR. Undercover Dukes.
Terry was in that one. Yep.
Oh,
that was
he?
the one Terry was in with the 44 car. Yep. I was actually an associate sponsor for the 44 car. He was racing for Budweiser.
So did you, I mean, obviously at that point you were a big racing fan. Like, did you have anything to do? I don't know how much say you had on the show, but did you have anything to do with like any of those collaborations of, racing drivers and stuff like that?
Well, Cale was great. Cale would just hang out. Loved Cale. When we did the Undercover Dukes that summer, because we knew we were going to do that, and the writers knew that I knew NASCAR, we brought them to, I don't know if it was the I think it was Atlanta Motor Speedway, so they could watch and see what the pits were like, what a pit stop was like, what the race was like.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly, that race got rained out. So I think they did like 20 laps, and that was it. So they went back and they wrote a script where I'm racing around the track, and then I come in for a pit stop. I get out of the car. I tell the pit crew what I think is wrong with the car, and I go make a phone call. And I was livid. I was saying, how could you write this after, I mean, you saw a pit stop. You saw what this is, and you saw the excitement of this.
And then Daisy gets in the car and wins a race.
Exactly. So you're so good, Aaron. So the whole reason behind violating everything that ever, any bit of possibility that would happen was because they needed to get me out of the car and Daisy into the car. That was it. Personally, I think they could have come up with a better reason, not having Bo or not having, apparently the show didn't look bad to you because it's one of your favorite shows, even though
it's funny.
We violated the rules of possibility and probability.
I watched it again last night because it's been a while. I just wanted to watch it again because I really like that episode, but I've noticed kind of the same things you were just saying, like this isn't even close to reality. Like this obviously would never happen. I mean, how hard it is just to, be in the top 5 in a dirt modified race. I mean, the chances of someone coming in and beating Bobby Allison and Cale Yarborough, I mean, that's just not possible.
Oh yeah.
And that's insane. What was happening.
It's just insane. Yeah. Yep. Well, I tell you, this racing the last year and a half has been so great for me. Because I play a guy when I race in the movies and television show, like I said, if it's an 18-second thing, I'm really good. I mean, I can throw the General Lee around all kinds of. I can park between 2 cones sideways. I mean, I'm a badass in the General Lee, and now our Hellcat Challenger. I am great in that. But when we went in Poker Run, I wrote a scene in where part of our run we had to basically invade a open wheel modified race that was already going. Now, in the world of we don't know what the hell we're doing, we would have done that and the race would have continued. Well, because of what we've been doing, it's great. I've had people who race dirt who said, this is so great that there's a movie where the rules aren't violated. So as soon as we come on there, somebody throws a yellow and they're about to throw a red. They're going to kick these people off when they see that it's me. And then I'm kind of like Burt Reynolds in Smokey and the Bandit. I come on and the announcer says, oh my, this is the 7-time winner of the Jambalaya 100, Duke Marietta. So during a yellow, we're out there running 2 laps around the track, which could happen, right? And then as soon as we get done, I show off. I do a 180 and a donut and take my hat off and yell to the crowd. And then I leave right in front. It's a beautiful shot. I'm in the Hellcat. I come out and I leave, and then you see all 18 cars still under a yellow getting ready to finish their race. And I never would have known any of that. I could not possibly have written that without the experience of the last year and a half. So I'm forever in Dirt's debt Well, I like that. I'm forever in dirt to death.
So for that particular scene, was that actually at an actual race, or did you just plan that for the film, if that makes sense? Because there's a lot of racing movies where they'll like film movie scenes like before the actual race starts, and then they'll do the race.
Well, we had to do it during the day.
Mm-hmm.
So we did the bulk of it at Pike County in Mississippi, where we basically said, hey, if you want to be in a movie, come on out. So we did a race. It was not an actual race, but
Gotcha.
you put 18 cars out there, it's a race. I mean, nobody's going to not race. It was not a sanctioned race, but they were going for it. It was a blast. And our guy that drove the Frosty truck, which is the cab, it's a Freightliner, no trailer on it, but he is a dirt track racer, and he got on it. I mean, seeing that big old thing coming, he was wonderful. Lon McWhorter, Lon. But to fill out the whole look, if you look really closely, you'll see supermods in it. You'll see several different classes of car, and you'll see Pike County. You'll see Baton Rouge. You'll see Boyd's. You'll see Bull's Gap, which really stands out like a sore thumb if you know pardon me, the salad bowl of Bull's Gap. I love Bull's Gap. You'll see Longdale. You'll see Lucas Motor Speedway. You'll see a whole bunch of tracks in there. If you know those tracks, you'll go, wait a minute, whoa. It'll blow your mind a little bit, but the illusion is that it's all one track, one time, 2 laps of yeehaw, and then we're on our way. So we filmed those other ones to kind of answer your question. The bulk of it was not a real race, but the rest of it was. But if you look closely, you'll notice that the Hellcat, the 18-wheeler, and the topless cop car, and the 86 Fiero are not actually there. But I'm the editor. See, that's one of those things I do. I went way through Suck years ago. I'm a great editor. There, I said it.
So hey, I'm learning editing too with this podcast, with other video stuff I've been doing. So I know how hard.
Oh, good.
Is. So, and we're trying to get more into doing more video stuff outside the podcast stuff too. But so you're talking about like, filming during the race stuff. Do you remember like the Undercover Dukes episode? I'm guessing some of the racing footage was actually shot probably at an actual race, right?
It was, and then our stuff was there was a racetrack. I don't think it's there anymore. Called Saugus Speedway in Saugus, California. It's gone. Well, that was it was a swap meet for a long time in a flea market. But when we were filming Dukes, they did race there. When we first started filming, they did figure 8, which was great, and I believe it was a flat paved 8, which is really wild. So when you see Carnival of Thrills and you see all that, anytime you see a racetrack, including Cale Yarborough, we're all on the infield at an obvious racetrack. That's Saugus Speedway. They also would go and grab footage. The second unit, remember I talked about first and second unit. Second unit would go out and grab footage and kind of add to it. And with Cale, they would grab footage. They had, I'm sure, with the France family, they had a deal where they grab actual footage of Cale. As we talked about him, they would have Cale driving and doing his calisthenics at Talladega and all that kind of great stuff. I think he had just gone over the fence the week before he came and did the show.
Oh, really?
Remember when he caught air and went up over the fence, and my poetic memory has him climbing over the fence and giving the thumbs up. I don't know that he did that, but in my mind, Cale Yarborough did that.
What's that called? It's called what do they call that when you take you expand
cinematic
the story?
License.
There it is.
Cinematic license.
Cinematic license.
Yeah, Cale's kind of like a superhuman. Like he's one. I mean, he doesn't really seem to age. I mean, you look at pictures of him now, he really doesn't.
He looks the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, and shaking hand. He's one of those guys. You shake his hand and you think this guy doesn't need a lug wrench to take the tires off. You know, he's one of those guys. He is tough and
Yeah,
great
big.
guy. Yep. So I'm very fortunate that I had the opportunity to hang out with Cale, to hang out with Terry, to hang out with Bobby, to hang out with Earnhardt later. There was one year, I only think they did it once. They had Hollywood got word that they could make money at NASCAR, so they did a NASCAR awards show. And I was looking at this cake. It was Dale's car. It was the number 3 sitting there. And I thought, this is really great. Somebody tapped me on the shoulder and said, man, I love that show. I watch that show every Friday night. Or we watched, I think it was shortly after. And it was Dale. And he was great. He was standing with a guy in a tuxedo. And he said, man, I do too. I love that show. And he could tell I wasn't quite sure who it was. And because he was standing there with a tuxedo on and no sunglasses and no hat,
Right.
and I'd never seen him like that before. It was Richard, and what an honor to know that those legends. I mean, those are the best of the best ever. I think those two gentlemen were not only the best that have ever been, but I think they're the best that will ever be. And just their skill, their passion, their tenacity. You know, these got Cale in there absolutely too. And of course, you know, they were old school, because I'm old school. There's nothing wrong with old school. And to have them know who I was, I mean, my God, the little kid that was running to the icy pole at Caldor's parking lot in 1966. What an honor that was. So Dukes has taken me to some amazing places.
You know, you seem to really embrace it today. And did you always embrace it? Like when the show was over, some people do something for a period of time. They get so associated with it, they seem to try to want to get away from that. Did you ever go through that period, or did you just have enough interest outside of it, like your music and other things, that was just part of your life and something that you cherished?
I do cherish it now. There have been times, it's kind of cyclical.
Okay.
When I did Smallville for 5 years, and then I did their last season. Smallville was a very popular show. And to go to a Smallville event and be introduced as Bo was a little like, dude, come on.
Right.
But I got over that. But it was a little bit like, but I've always loved the Dukes of Hazzard. I did a show recently. I did 9 years on a show called The Haves and Have-Nots. #1 show on the Oprah Winfrey Network for 9 years. Solid. And not a peripheral character on that show. One of the main people on that show. And even in events for that show, people would introduce me as the guy from the Dukes of Hazzard. You know, and I would, and it's not going to go away. My wife, who is far smarter than me, finally convinced me. She said, the next movie we make, this was 2 years ago. The next movie, you need to get your butt in a car, and you need to drive it like nobody else. And that's it. So write a movie. We had just gone through some flooding here in Louisiana, and a peripheral result of that was terrible finance. So I lost a piece of property. So I sat down on my laptop and I wrote a movie about a guy who used to be on a show where he drove an orange car that had a flag on the top that was about to miss his balloon payment. And it's called Christmas Cars. And it did so well. It darn near saved the farm. So somewhere during that, I had been very good friends with Burt Reynolds for years, and he passed away. And I had kind of promised, we talked about it, you know, someday somebody's going to bring back Southern horsepower comedy. Somebody's going to bring back Smoking the Bandit. Somebody's going to bring back Stroker Ace, Gator, WW and the Dixie Dance Kings, all this kind of stuff. Because for some reason, nobody does it. So I sat down and I wrote a screenplay called Stand on It, which was the working title for Stroker Ace when they filmed
Right.
Stand on It.
Because it's got a song
And
isn't there a song in there called Stand on It?
yes,
There's a song.
yes.
Yeah.
So I wrote that, and in that, a guy like me, I didn't say I'm Bo Duke, but a guy like me, Duke Marietta, who drove that car in that show, gets bet $500,000 he can't do for real what Burt Reynolds did for pretend in Smokey and the Bandit. And that movie did so great. So my wife, all this to say, my wife was right. Since then, we've made Poker Run. Poker Run includes not only the Hellcat, but a boat very reminiscent of Gator, and also the dirt track race. So I'm enjoying Southern horsepower comedy. Why wouldn't I? I mean, I don't know why it took me that long to figure that out. But the next one we're going to make is called, well, we're making two. The next one in that series we're going to make is called Double or Nothing. And again, it's cars and boats and fun and racing and monster trucks this time. Because I met some monster truck people up in Indianapolis a couple of weeks ago. And they said they'd come down and play. And if you got a monster truck and you want to come down and play, then come be in the movie.
I like it.
Yeah.
You know, you have a real, and kind of getting back to a little bit what we we're just talking about, that show, I mean, 1978 is when it premiered. So you filmed in 77, I assume, 77 or at least 78.
Actually, we premiered in 79, January 79. We
I'm
started
so sorry.
in, that's okay. I mean, I was 18 or 19. Who cares, right? So we started in October of 78.
Okay. And so you're a young man at this time, and the world's already kind of at your feet just because you're young. But then you go to these heights that so few people have ever had to deal with. I'm sure you did had to go through the whole Tiger Beat phase and
yes, I did.
The poster
Bananas.
phase. Yeah. And
Yep.
the posters and all that. And it seems like it would be such a heady time. I mean, as someone so young, how were you able to deal with that? Because Farrah Fawcett went through it. She was a little older, than you were at the time, but some other people went through that. But you guys, people today just don't realize how big this show was. It was so massive.
Yeah, well, that nobody understands a 3-network world.
Right.
We were ABC,
Yeah.
CBS, NBC. That was it.
I used the
That
term
was
the other day. I used the term appointment television, and Aaron didn't know what I meant.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Oh, Aaron.
So there you go.
Aaron. Well, I tell you, the thing that helped me, I was only 18, but I've been doing, if you see a racer who's 15 years old, who's been driving for 5 years, right? Yeah. That's a difference. There's a difference between that young man or young woman and one who started when they were 14.
Right.
So I started doing theater when I was 8 years old, and magic and guitar and juggling and anything. I was infatuated. I loved everything about the movies. I loved everything about the theater. So by the time I did Dukes, I had already done the probably 18, 19 musicals and several plays. I'd already done magic shows at kids' birthday parties. So I was sure I put this the right way. I was expecting to win. I was expecting to be able to come around turn 3 and see a hole in turn 4 and take it. I was expecting that. I was prepared for it for 10 years, for a whole decade by the time I was 18 years old. So when I say there are things I'm really good at, I was really good at preparing for, expecting, and here's the most important thing, and everything we're talking about, recognizing opportunity. So when the opportunity for Dukes came around, it wasn't like, oh my God, this is going to be great. It was like, there it is. There it is. That's mine. I'm going to go get that. I'm going to take that and I'm going to run with it past the finish line. What you don't know at 18 is that past that finish, that's just one race.
Right.
There's another race. And then there's a thing called the championship. So once I realized that, which was immediately, that's why I did the movie where I built the house in New York. It's called Dream House. That's why I took a band out on the road. I had Elvis's bass player and his piano player in my first band. That's why I did every movie, everything I could get my hands on during our break time. And our break time was 2 months a year. Now, somebody works a 9-to-5 job, says, oh my God, every year you get 2 months. That's great. Well, every year I got those 2 months, I filled it with more recognition of opportunity and more taking it. And I think that's why what people are now saying to me about, well, with cancel culture and all that, you're a conservative and the things you say, aren't you worried they're going to cancel you? And I said, look, dude, you can't cancel me. I quit. This is my race. This is not your race. I'm not on your track. I'm on my track. I'm in my car, in my seat, with my 6-point harness and my very special helmet. And I've even got form-fitted ears. Okay. This is my race and you are lucky to be in on it. That's my attitude. And I think that that's the attitude of anybody who finishes first and gets to do it. I've been doing this now, people have been aware of me since 79, but I've been doing it since 68.
Right.
So I have always known that opportunity is something that will come along. I don't think you make it. I don't think you make opportunity come along. I think you learn to recognize it. You're prepared when it comes, and then you take it. But you must expect it. Every day you wake up, you must expect great things. And that's how I live my life. And I have since before Dukes of Hazzard.
Man, that's great. That
And I'm just getting started.
that kind of led me to so as we know, the whole world's different today than when you first started in music, whether it's music or film or whatever you're doing. And so you're basically, instead of having to worry about a studio or worry about somebody else really backing it, how does that process go where you're doing it yourself? I mean, it's you and your wife, and you have the scripts, and then you have to get you have to film it and then distribute it some way. How are you able to distribute like on your own and get these out?
Well, we distribute them ourselves. So we have, we live in a day and age now where you can do that.
Right.
So we make our own DVDs. Great thing about where I am is people say DVDs are dead, don't bother making them. Well, people want something tangible. Let me grab some. They want something tangible from me with my autograph on it, right? Which is great. I'm honored that people want that. So we sell DVDs through johnschneiderstudios.com. They say the world has gone towards streaming. You should be on Netflix. Well, Netflix does stuff that I disagree with, so I don't want to have anything to do with them. And conversely, they don't want to have anything to do with me, and that's okay. Why would they? Why would I?
Right.
So we have a streaming service that we developed a couple of years ago, quite by accident. We did it we did a film festival called Cineflix Fest. And we were doing that so that we could give a platform for independent filmmakers like us to be able to point people. That is my bride. Hey, baby. What's that? Oh, okay. All right. So that people could be, we're because we started late, we're late for dinner. Call me anything, just don't call me late for dinner. But so we started this streaming platform, and then did our film festival. And about 2 years later, we had kind of let it go dormant. That's when we kicked the notion of traditional distribution aside. And then she realized, not me, she said, wait a minute, we already have Cineflix DOD, which stands for Digital On Demand. Let's just release our films through that. So again, that goes back to expecting great things, preparing for opportunity, and seizing it when you see it. So we already had this thing sitting there. So now we have all of our films on there. People can rent them for 48 hours. They can download some of them. They can't download Stand On It or Poker Run, because we did have some nefarious people download Christmas cars and then sell it in, I don't know, somewhere overseas. So sadly, because of those few bad people, we aren't allowing people to download the movies anymore. But you can stream it for 48 hours. We had somebody, when Poker Run first came out, they said, I had it for 48 hours. Me and the family watched it 18 times. That's what happened with Smokey and the Bandit. People watched it over and over and over and over again.
So do you keep up with any of the, mainstream motorsports today? Like, do you watch, like, I don't know, NASCAR racing, IndyCar racing?
I don't. We don't really have time to. When the races are going on, we're usually racing. Mm-hmm. So I don't. I do have an issue with the rebel flag, or as it's incorrectly called, the Confederate flag being taken down from NASCAR. I do have a tremendous issue with people taking a knee and being allowed to. I understand intellectually how people could go there, but I do not understand patriotically how people can go there and allow that. So my basic saying is, when you took a knee, I took a walk. So until we get that straightened out, then I think I'm just going to watch racing from inside my joy of seating containment seats.
Right. You getting Randy LaJoie's name in there? Little plug for Randy.
Oh, Randy's amazing. Randy's amazing. 16, they measure you from 16 different directions.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a great, great seat. That's what I have. And I have hit the wall, and I'm fine.
Yeah. No, they're great seats. Hey, I just want to say thank you so much. We'd love to have you back on to talk about your racing this year, you and your wife's racing.
I would love that. I would love it.
And, just catch up and you can tell us when you get through suck, and then you can tell us when you get right to pretty good.
Oh no. Yeah, there you go.
Hey, remember,
Indiana,
you know what's going to happen then? People are going to be so excited that the Dukes of Hazzard guys right over there, that they're going to make a mistake.
There you go.
Right.
That's right.
We live in Indiana. You probably don't race that close to Indiana, do you? Tennessee.
We race near Indiana. We have not been in Indiana yet, but we will. We will. Okay, gentlemen, go fast, go often, expect great things, and seize every opportunity you can.
Hey, remember, that right foot's your best friend in that race car. Always.
That's right. That's right. But there's an egg under it.
That's right. Sometimes there's got to be an egg. Sometimes you got to be a nail. Depends on how you're getting.
Oh, I like it. Guys, take care. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Really appreciate it, John. Thanks for the time.
Really
bye, everybody. JohnSchneiderStudios.com or Cineflix DOD. Check them out. I promise you'll laugh. You need to laugh. Bye.